What is going on, everybody? In this video, we're providing a state of the market and stock picks for December 1st, 2022. So that sounds like something you're interested in. Consider subscribing, as we do provide daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and the week ahead in this glorious market. So, what a day, what a day. Biggest thing to understand here is we had Powell, and Powell again with his words has pumped the market. Uh, Biggest thing to really understand is that Powell essentially gave Hopium that there would be relief in December. There's a lot of other interpretations on how you could view and what he said and pick apart and dissect what he said. But he did also say that you can't get ahead of yourself, that these things can change. And he keeps reiterating that essentially that you have to be cautious, even though he seemed to be somewhat optimistic, which is what the market is feeding off of. And something I've said up to this point, a lot of people are tired of the bad news. And so any kind of hopium is extremely potent in this market. And we're seeing that today, being the example. Again, I do believe we could be hitting a peak inflation, but again, time will tell. We have to also understand that any bad reports, if the next report that comes out on the 13th, if for some reason um, we somehow bump back up to 8 on headline inflation, you can guarantee that's going to absolutely wreck the market. And this hopium that we've been getting, again, we've been corrected on hopium before multiple times. This is not any different. Although it does, I do feel to an extent that we could get it under control, but it really depends on how the Fed handle it. Again, we got about another 2 weeks before we do have the monetary policy in the next core. Now we'll get core before the monetary policy does come out. So you have to really be mindful of that. Again, something I've always said, you don't want the market to go parabolic, because as quick as it went up, it can come down twice as fast. Being said, all my thesis, essentially my thesis from what's gone on, has not changed. Yes, we are taking great steps forward. I'm not trying to dilute that. And as a trader, as an investor, I'm more so heavily weighted on, I'm an active trader, an active investor. So I'm in and out of positions. I don't hold positions typically, even in a good market. If the stock pumps 30%, I'm taking profits. Doesn't matter what market I'm in. And this market isn't any the same. I do take profits a lot quicker in this market because of the volatility of the markets and the events that have been circling us essentially throughout this whole year, being one of the roughest markets we have been in a long time. With all that being said, I'm going to ride this pump, this essentially fantasy land, or whatever you want to call it. Uh, Being on one extreme, I don't see us going back to all-time highs. Again, we still have to see the underlying statement of what's going on here with the credit cards, with essentially everything I've talked up to this point, and where the housing industry is at this point. Again, a lot of misinterpreted data. We will have non-farms. Again, that will be, um, again, all these numbers are very, very misleading, and don't feed into these numbers, because they are all essentially, um, in my opinion, BS to an extent, because of the fact that, again, these reports are dissected and refined, so they project essentially what headline or media or whoever is essentially in charge wants you to believe, and what feeds into that thesis. It's been proven over and over. Nonetheless, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the current state. Will this pump last? Is the question. Technical wise, we are right on that technical level. on the daily on this trend line that we've been battling for a very, very long time, essentially all year. And we are currently sitting at that. The question is can we break above essentially the 4100 tomorrow? If we can, that would be a great sign. I don't expect this to be a pivotal move. Yes, great steps, and something I've talked about, great steps. I'm trying not to diminish that. And I will play the rally. I'm not saying I won't, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. But you have to be very cautious on what is currently going on. The whole China situation is a very delicate situation. A lot of the situations we're currently in are very delicate. So again, yes, the current headline news is feeding this thesis that things are great. Hopium is great. Hopium is extremely powerful when things are really, really bad. People grasp onto some sort of light in dark times. And so, again, in my mind, I'm not going to play against that trend. Again, we've seen the short squeezes that happen in the shorts. When you get days like this, you do not short the market. You have to let the momentum die out before even considering going short again. Again, the market will hit a top and it will stall. Is that stall tomorrow at essentially the 4100 is a question. Is this where we stall and we come back down and then we continue to chop into monetary policy? We'll have to see. Again, Powell's words mean a lot. We do have the PCE in the morning. Could feed more. We want to see where the consumer is at. How they're doing with jobs on non-farms are extremely important as well. But again, all misleading data. This data is not ultimately correct, in my opinion. In my opinion, what you're going to see is the underlying truth in earnings. When I see earnings that are solid, when I see earnings that look like we can sustain forward guidance, it looks like we can sustain ourselves without having to worry about inflation, that I will be solid to think that we could make a good recovery. I don't think we're going to make a fast recovery at all. The current situation we are in is not going to be fast. Yes, we'll stop putting or adding rates, but we will hold rates for an extended period of time. I keep saying that and understanding the damage that it's doing. A lot more companies are coming again with bigger layoffs and stopping projects because they cannot fund new projects. They cannot fund trimming a lot of fat, a lot of stuff that needs to be done. And I'm not trying to be extremely bearish. This cycle is much needed and much necessary for nice, big, strong bull markets. You have to normalize things. You have to essentially get rid of the crud to be able to do that. And so all these, you're seeing this with FTX, you're seeing this with all these other companies that were trading ridiculously forward PEs that made no sense. And you get corrections. And now I don't believe PE is really the best gauge in the new markets because a lot of it's based on potential and what could potentially happen, aka Tesla. But we have to understand that a lot of these really great companies are building ecosystems that support itself, and that there's more than just what the underlying thing and what people think. Again, Tesla is a good example. People think it's a car company when it's not, right? It's an energy company, and understand what a lot of these companies are doing, and they're putting their hands in a lot of different spaces to sustain themselves during times like this. So being said, it'd be interesting to see moving forward how 2023 will play out. I still expect I'm still watching the consumer extremely closely and seeing when they fold, seeing if things play out, hopefully for the best. Again, I don't see that happening. I can't see how the consumer can recover from where they're currently at if they can't get a job. What if people are working multiple jobs? What if severance packages run out and nobody can afford? What if people can't liquidate their homes? what if. There's a lot of what ifs. There's way too many what ifs to think that this thing's just going to pivot and things are going to be okay. I think we could recover the back half of next year, but I think we will. What we need is we need that last cleanse. We need one strong last cleanse that is going to essentially wipe out this debt that keeps being accumulated. This massive amount of debt that's being accumulated at this point, people just are not going to get out of. Things aren't going to recover as fast as people would like, and I think people are betting that it will, and are going to get burned for that. Again, my thesis, and I highly advise, and something I've always talked about. You should listen to multiple people and build your own conclusion based off of the facts that you see and how you interpret what you see. Again, these are just how I interpret it. Doesn't mean you have to agree. Doesn't mean you can't build your own thesis that's completely opposite of mine. Just as long as you are profitable is what I'm concerned about, and why I do this channel essentially is to help get my thoughts and ideas out there for myself to help build my thesis and have a track record of that and kind of gauge where I'm at. So with after all that talk, so I'm kind of really watching technical levels. Again, watching that 4100. Can we open above that tomorrow? I want to see if we can get continuation. Again, great hopium when the main man himself provides a little bit of hope. The market is going to feed off that, and that's what we saw today with this massive rip. Again, you don't want this thing to continue to rip. Normally, day twos of rips are even bigger. But just be careful. We had the same thing here where we pulled back. We got great news and we were massive rip, and then the second day hardly anything. We got a massive rip in the morning, and that was pretty much it. And then we just got diluted. We've had massive rips, stalled, and then dropped. So we'll want to see if we can break out above this, and then go from that point. But technical wise, so that's what I'm watching tomorrow. Again. Can we feel this? Again, we don't typically get a lot of hopium, so especially coming from the man, Powell himself. So I really want to watch that closely and see what's going on. Bitcoin is pumping a little bit because of that. Bitcoin, I think, has a long way. The FTX stuff is done a lot of damage. So I think you're still trying to build some trust. There's still a lot of heavy believers. I'm a heavy believer in crypto, but I think you've lost a good majority of people, at least for the short period. The dollar, again, if you want the market to be bullish, this thing needs to break below 105. If it can't break below 105, I think it's going to be an issue. Again, if inflation runs away, this thing will creep back up and just shoot right back up. So, again, technicals only go so far. You have to understand this is a very volatile market, and there's a lot of different things that are occurring and can occur and are going on in the background that I talk about all the time that can play out and can make things pretty miserable. So Tesla, nice breakout. Something I've been talking about, this breakout finally broke out. So kind of really watching that 190 tomorrow. If the market and Tesla can hold, if the market can hold and break above essentially that 4100, and Tesla can hold above 190, kind of looking for the retest here and potentially start creeping back up. I think we could start feeling into a potential some sort of rally. Again, our earnings rallies have been kind of off and a little premature in a lot of cases. Again, when we get windows where we don't have any big news events or any kind of big events, the market's trying to take advantage of that. Now you're giving that open space, hopium from the Powell. We might get a couple nice day run, maybe even a week. It really just depends. But you'll find out we'll hit a ceiling again, and we can't expect this thing to go straight up. It's not going to go vertical. You got too much still playing out, too many what-if scenarios. But we'll take advantage of Powell's words for a couple days anyway. So really watching this level. I do like this breakout on Tesla. Again, I want to really see how this retest is. Again, we've had this retest. We have these breakouts multiple times this year, and technicals have been absolutely trash. You get these breakouts, and we get a nice little half pop tomorrow, and then we'll drop off. Who knows? But again, still watching that 190 mark tomorrow, and see if the Tesla can hold above that. Aapl, a huge rip. I did buy this right here on the dip. I did sold. I didn't want to hold this thing overnight. Again, I'm not trusting this market and currently where it's at, taking on these massive rips. to not take any kind of profit on these massive rips. I think you're really cheating yourself on that deal, because I don't think we're at a pivotal point yet. But being said, this is not financial advice, so do what you may. But nonetheless, as long as you have a plan and you manage risk, you should be fine. So again, tomorrow, really watching this, I'm not really sure if we dip back down, if the market pulls back, watching 145 tomorrow. Otherwise, you get a pretty hard ceiling at the 155. Again, if we can break, we're kind of watching that for Aapl. Aapl is a big one I want to watch tomorrow as well. This one here, Roblox, I want to kind of watch this tomorrow. If Roblox can break above the 32 tomorrow, I think we get a nice push up to the 37 tomorrow. Again, really just depends on the general market sentiment before market opens is always extremely important. So watching that. BA, again, just massive rip. Financials are much the same. I don't like this parabolic move without any touchbacks. I still feel like this thing is going to correct halfway, maybe 148, potentially. We have to see. I think a lot. Again, we're still walking on eggshells and in very much hopium at this point. So it's interesting to see what the market is doing. Again, banks, just massive rip. I don't like these massive rips without doing any touchbacks. You kind of get a little bit of that. The last 2 years, that vibe of just buy the dip and we rip is kind of what's been happening here. I think you're getting a lot of FOMO and you're getting a lot of squeeze action going on here in the financials and value. Again, that's what led us in the beginning of the year and is trying to lead us into the back half of the year. But we are starting to see some strength in tech, which is interesting to watch as well. So with all that being said, I know I ranted a lot in the beginning of this. There's a lot to look out for. Just be mindful. Play what's going in front of you. Again, any good trader will play what's in front of them. Yes, I do have a thesis. I suggest you build a thesis. But nonetheless, you shouldn't let that deter you from what is currently happening on. Don't fight what's currently going on. There's really multiple day potential trend and a very strong trend you don't want to try to fight against until it starts showing you its hand where it starts getting weaker. Normally this will take third or fourth day typically before this starts to die out. So trying to watch that. Tomorrow could be even a bigger day. It really just depends when we break out. We've seen it when it's pumped and dumped as well. This is why overnight digestion is extremely important. But nonetheless, if you made it this far, I do appreciate it. Manage risk, drop a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys on the next one.